There's always one game that you want to be announced. One game you've waited so long for a sequel to be made for. Every one of us has that one game that we hope gets announced. The one game that gives you hope leading up to each convention, each conference, and especially each E3. To put this simply, everyone has their personal most wanted game. Everyone has their own Half-Life 3. Everyone wants their Half-Life 3 to be finally made, and for some, well, most people from the looks of it, their Half-Life 3 is actually Half-Life 3, the most notorious game when it comes to speculation for its announcement. But I don't really care about Half-Life. Deal with that one, interwebs. I don't really care about Half-Life. Other games like this would be sequels to Banjo-Kazooie, Conker's Bad Fur Day, Mega Man Legends, but based on those examples, Conker wasn't fucking around at E3, we're gonna have to make those games ourselves. Maybe for some of you, your Half-Life 3 was Hoenn remakes, even though it was obvious that they would eventually get announced at some point. But what's my Half-Life 3? For a long time, it was Kingdom Hearts 3, but then it got announced, so fuck yeah! But now, it's something else. Something that would make for an amazing sequel, especially with the capabilities of this generation of gaming. When you see this logo show up, you're pretty damn certain you're about to experience one hell of a game. But when you see this logo with a brick going through it, you're goddamn right you're gonna experience one hell of a game, no matter how dated this game's become, because this game is Bully. Or what it was known as from where I'm from, Canis Canem Edit. You know, because a name that promotes, hints, or even suggests mild violence, name-calling, and the handing over of lunch money is way too controversial for England. For those of you wondering and are too lazy to Google the meaning of Canis Canem Edit, it translates to dog eat dog. It's a pretty good name, actually. Latin can make anything sound cool. But for all I knew back in 2006, this could have translated to The Adventures of John McLongdong, Secret of the Seven Schlongs. But sadly, no. It doesn't translate to that. I guess I'm gonna have to make that game myself one day as well. But whatever you want to call it, it's a good game. Imagine this game on current gen systems that we have now. The original was on the PS2, the sequel would be on the PS4. That's like twice the power! The game had a lot to begin with, especially for a PlayStation 2 game. The sequel would be 2 generations ahead from the first game, so that means the possibilities for this sequel are almost limitless. Here are 10 things that I would want in Bully 2. The first thing that comes to my head when I think about flaws about this game is the basic boss fights. Because you see, the thing is, they're not really boss fights. A more accurate phrase would be a standard fight, or even better, a standard fight with some kind of gimmick. This boss right here is the only fight in the game that really has that boss fight feel to it. You've been led into the pit with the beast of the school. You're thrown against the toughest guy in the school in the first chapter, so any boss you fight after this feels weak, since Russell has like 3 times the amount of health as any other character. So after Russell, your standards of what to expect from a boss are destroyed. So every other boss after this feels like a standard fight. Like, that's literally what they are once you finally reach the person you're supposed to knock out, and the rest of their faction isn't distracting you. You can probably find these faction leaders around the school and knock them out just as easily outside of a mission than you would in the actual boss fight. So in reality, these so-called boss fights are no different than, I don't know, giving Sheldon a spinebuster in the back alley behind the boys' dorm. The prefects can't save you now, Sheldon. Okay, so there's more to fighting bosses than doing wrestling moves on someone way smaller than you, for the most part. But there isn't much more. It's usually just some kind of gimmick that makes you wait before you're able to attack properly, like when you fight the nerd faction leader. I understand that it would be hard to improve on something like this, since you can only go so far when making boss fights in a realistic game for a 15-year-old faction leader. I think Rockstar realized this, so they ended up focusing more on the build-up and the journey of actually getting to the boss. Like going around the observatory with the nerds fully equipped with weapons. But still, some of these felt kinda lazy. They're not terrible, but some of them could have had more thought put into them. Especially the nerd boss, it just stalls the hell out of you. The build-up and the journey of getting there was all fine and dandy, but then you get there to the actual boss and there's like no creativity. Just stalls you. Just throwing some ideas out there, but maybe have the nerds build a giant superhuman robot or something, you know? Get Liberty Prime up in this bitch! This game gets compared to Grand Theft Auto a lot, and I can see why. They're really similar. They're made by the same company. It's like comparing Elder Scrolls to Fallout. A lot of people just say Bully is just a teenage Grand Theft Auto. And I know some people out there probably say, why would you play a game that's just GTA without guns? That's gay. That's super gay.
Silence! Filthy casuals! Get that excrement out of my breathing space, heathen!
But since this game is the so-called teenage GTA, Billy should have a phone system like in the newer GTA games. I mean, every teenager nowadays has like 5 iPhones, right? I could explain how I want a phone system to work in Bully 2, but it could just be the same as it is in GTA. You know, if you want to call your cousin for bowling, or if you want to call up for some hired muscle. And with a phone, you'll get all the latest updates from youngster Joey about his top percentage beast. And hey, you could even use it for cheats. But those who use cheats are nothing more than
filthy casuals!
So Rockstar, just add a phone. All the cool kids have one. Come on, don't you want to be cool? As much fun as it is to play through this game, it's not that hard. It's actually kind of easy, especially when almost every enemy drops health and the person you're playing as is the 15-year-old incarnation of Brock Lesnar. I ain't complaining. He ain't a smart kid, he's gotta have something going for him. In terms of Rockstar game difficulty, it's no Max Payne 3. Okay, Max Payne 3 was probably a harsh comparison to make for difficulty, but it's way easier than, let's say, the GTA games. But even that's kind of an unfair comparison. With all the weapons on GTA and with the authorities that actually threaten you, there's 1,001 ways you could die in these games. In GTA 5, the police are too damn persistent. They will hunt you down without mercy. They will hunt you down all nightmare long. And when you finally get out of their sight, you have to wait quite some time for everything to calm down. In Bully, the prefects kinda just chase you for a second and then they tire out. And after your trouble meter goes down, they kinda forget that you just Kimbo sliced an entire faction of nerds. And in Bully, when the authority catches you, half the time, you can reverse the hold they have on you. But in GTA, you can't reverse bullets being shot at you. I can understand that prefects in a school can't exactly have guns to stop the students. But at least for me, I didn't think they were threatening enough to give the player an incentive not to cause trouble at every possible moment. To be fair though, they're kind of threatening when you do something as extreme as knocking out a teacher with a spud gun. Then they get pissed. They get fucking pissed. One of the worst things you can do to piss off the prefects is punching kids. But whenever I pass a school kid, you know I have to follow standard procedure. You know I always have to go for that spine buster. No, not just because Sheldon's a candy-ass jabroni. No, I do it because I can. And there's nothing you can do about it. But let's say, on the odd occasion that you do get caught, what's the punishment? Well, you see, you just take a trip to the principal's office, or you have to mow the field. And that's it. You're let go. Free to practice your moveset that some hobo out back taught you on all the students once more. But again, that's an unfair comparison to GTA, because Jimmy can make it rain with all the kiddie concussions he wants, but gets hardly any punishment. But let's say you graze a police car in GTA. What's the punishment for that? A cap in your ass, a nice rusty prison cell, and if that prison doesn't use shower gel, the cap won't be the only thing in your ass. In terms of difficulty, they even need to give this game a difficulty setting or at least make health more scarce. It's one thing interacting with all the other factions in the game, but being able to make your own faction? Now that's something I want to see. I'd imagine it like being a more interactive version of creating the Brotherhood in Assassin's Creed. You could recruit anyone you wanted from any faction once you've gained their trust. The best of every faction put into one dominant group. And if this happens, there has to be an option where you can choose what your faction wears. Oh yeah, you better believe I'm having that all-gold suit faction. The gang you build from the ground up. The missions you could carry out as your own clique. The reputation you slowly build as you and your friends rise through the ranks of popularity. From being complete outcasts to becoming slightly above average. Good God, it's magical. Since the release of Bully on the PlayStation 2 back in 2006, gaming has changed a hell of a lot. Multiplayer has become even more popular from consoles focusing so much on online play. Loads of companies rush and force online modes to be added to their games, just because of how so many people specifically buy games for multiplayer modes, without ever touching single player. Because no one plays single player. Single player's gay. Super gay. God
Damn filthy casual.
It's gotten to the point where game developers now have to rush to make their single player mode. And it's even gotten to the point where some games have nothing but online modes. But when effort's actually put into making a good online experience, it can turn an okay game into an amazing game. Hell, it could even turn an IGN review from 8.9 to 8.9372 because review decimals fucking matter! That shit's only 8.9, I'm cancelling my fucking pre-order! Bully Scholarship Edition had this multiplayer mode, but this mode was only for minigames that you do in lesson, and I'm pretty sure that I'm the only person who knows that this mode exists after playing through the game like 3.5 times, 2 of them being 100% playthroughs, because when Microsoft takes over the world, they're gonna rank us based on our gamer score. I'm just getting prepared. But who in the hell wants to do minigames from lessons? Everyone, I mean everyone, wants that big fat Red Dead style free roam multiplayer mode. What better way would you want a multiplayer mode than a free roam sandbox available for dozens of other people to join in on? Other than TF2. Online, free roam, Bully. I'm gonna be disappointed if they don't add something like this in the next game. I mean, why wouldn't Rockstar do this? Hell, you could even make online factions. Just think of the shenanigans that could be had. Hopefully, you won't have to imagine for much longer, because Rockstar's gonna do this. Right? Right, Rockstar? You're gonna fucking do this, right? You're gonna fucking do it. If there's one thing this game has, it's weapons. You can go from firecrackers, to marbles, to bats, to rulers, and my personal favourite, the spud gun. This death machine hurts more than most guns do. Well, Nerf guns, that is. A real gun would kill ya, but it's still dangerous as hell. But imagine, if you could customize or combine weapons, I could create a spud gun that doesn't shoot potatoes, but shoots firecrackers. Oh wait, they did that. Okay, then how about a spud gun that doesn't shoot spuds, but it shoots children? Nah, that's stupid. Or is it? Just maybe. Sheldon, finally I found you. Your astronaut training's gonna pay off. Being able to combine any weapon, it's just like, you know that game? The one where, shit. The one with the dead, and they rise? What the fuck? Fuck if I know. This one kinda comes with the territory of a sequel being made for a way more powerful system, but a larger world is something that this game should, well, definitely will get. Bully's sandbox is pretty small when you compare it to other Rockstar games, ever since the PlayStation 2. Sandboxes have just been getting massive. I mean massive, like, look at Red Dead. This shit's massive. Then GTA 5 came and tripled the fuck out of that one. It's fucking massive! GTA 5 is this big, so just imagine the possibilities of a map for Bully on the new consoles we have now. Just think of all the filler, all the useless buildings that you can't go into, all of the space to run away from the prefects because they're still pissed about how I managed to get Sheldon into a spud gun. Okay, so it wouldn't really be all filler. There would be actual areas added, like having different sections or territories to Bullworth. Oh, and if the world is as big as GTA or Red Dead, then you have to make the world itself and side missions more interesting. Don't pull a Mafia 2 on us. Don't give us a sandbox without the fucking sand. If a Bully map is this big, we need more stuff to do. Not just stupid glitchy errands that randomly appear when some guy comes up to you like, "Hey kid, I'll give you $20 if you do a lap around the ocean." Well, no! Fuck your damn errands! Give us sand, Rockstar! If you've played through Bully, you'd know that the entire game revolves around rivalries between yourself and other groups. The preppies hate the greeters, the jocks hate the nerds, and you're just in the middle of this. You act as the clear neutral. You're the violent peacekeeper solving all of these little civil wars within the school. To put it simply, you're the avatar of Bullworth Academy. But all of these rivalries are within this one school, for the most part. But Bullworth Academy is the only school in this town. That's why, in the next game, to make things really interesting, there has to be a rival school. With a massive sandbox, each school could definitely have their own territories, East and West Academies, North and South. It doesn't matter, just get some gang wars going. Now, I don't know what Rockstar would do for the sequel. Maybe it's set a few years later in the same town, but with a new protagonist, and you interact with all the older characters from the first game. Similar to Borderlands 2. If that's the case, then here's how I'd want this whole rival school situation to go down. You see, after the events of the first game, after all that shit that happened, Jimmy gained a fine amount of reputation. This makes him a massive target for all the people outside of Bullworth Academy. But Gary, who moved to this new rival school, starts scheming up some good old-fashioned revenge. So he stirs up some serious shenanigans leading out to an all-out war between the two schools. So you progress through the game, gaining respect from all these new factions to build up one hell of an army. Or maybe Rockstar will decide to make a completely new town and protagonist separate from the first game, just like what they do with each new GTA game. Either way, rival schools, make it happen. And gang wars. Make that happen too. If there's another thing that's definitely gonna be in a Bully sequel, it's new factions. The exaggerated cliques in the first game all worked well. The nerds were nerds, the jocks were cocks, and the greasers looked like they just stepped out of the 50s. But there's loads of new factions that they could add. Groups like stoners, gangsters, rockers, emos, metalheads. Real metalheads as well. Not those angsty teenagers that label themselves as metalheads but only listen to pop punk. But times be a-changing with all these new little factions. These days, everybody's either a hipster or some kind of fandom-obsessed Tumblr jabroni. You could have the hipsters roaming around the place dressed all 90s and shit, and you can never get them to respect you unless you don't conform. Yes! Let's conform to being non-conformists. But wait. With all these faction ideas I've given, many of them are similar, like metalheads, emos, punks, and band fandom-obsessed scene kid jabronis. Those guys, for instance. They're all similar to some extent, so why not sub-factions for one main faction? In this case, it would be something like rockers or band jabronis, I guess. And on the basis of sub-factions, listen up and listen good, because I'm about to go deep. If the town is made into two rival sides, East and West, North and South, whatever sides the school are on, these two rival schools could be factions in itself. So there would be factions, which are a fraction of a faction within a faction. My God, it's genius. And the final thing I can think of that I would want for Bully 2, player choices. In the first game, you'd go through missions and respect from each faction would fluctuate based on who you were helping and who you were pissing off in that specific mission. I always thought it was weird that once a faction respects you, they always will unless it's changed by a mission. I mean, outside of a mission, I can go up to this nerd and be all like,
I'ma hit you in the face. I'ma hit you real hard in the face because I'm all frustrated. Here I come.
So I deck this guy and let out all my frustrations. But the next day, this guy will act like nothing happened, so I can just keep letting out my frustrations whenever I want, and this guy will never get pissed. There's gotta be a point where this guy says, "No! I'm getting sick of your shit! Stop it!" Unless Jimmy actually does make it rain with the concussions and this guy has no memory of what I've done to him. Each person should have their own individual opinion of you based on your actions in the game. With this kind of interaction, you can base your actions on which factions and people you want to like and hate. So there could be a balance about the amount of reputation you have. Say, if the jocks like you, the nerds will hate you. If the greasers like you, the preppies will hate you. If the hipsters like you, everyone will hate you. But Omastar didn't get any weaker, it became a hell of a lot stronger when it evolved. I mean, look at this thing, it's a stationary meat grinder with tentacles. No one, and I mean no one, has seen enough hentai to know where that's going.